Hello and welcome back to Premier League Primetime. And we are going to take a look at some off-season decisions that the Arsenal need to make over the summer. And I'm joined by my guy, my bro, coming with me to Cal Poly SLO. My guy, Michael, what's good, my G?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. Considering the fact that we beat Villa today, we still have, we have a really difficult schedule going in. Anyways, let's get right into this. We're taking a look at Arsenal, whose season is effectively over after crashing out of the Europa League 2-1 to Villarreal and getting knocked out by former Arsenal manager Mr. Good Evening himself, Unai Emery. After that defeat, how are you feeling? I'm not trying to mug you off in any way, but were you feeling pretty dejected after that?
Yeah, just disappointed. I thought, the players would bring the mentality that they needed to beat essentially just a average Spanish team. And the big teams in the Premier League should normally be able to do that. So I thought I was confident. I thought we would be able to perform at home. I thought we were going to be able to at least get a single goal. That was all we needed to go through, but just nothing on the attack, nothing much to talk about. It's just lack of creativity, lack of discipline, lack of energy. That's kind of just what I saw.
Yeah, I was watching a bit of the game, and I kind of had kind of the same thoughts as you. I was thinking, I don't know why, on earth Arteta didn't play a striker, and it also, and in the second leg, it wasn't that much better either. Both legs were diabolical. But anyways, let's get right into this. So we have a list of Arsenal players here. And pretend you are the manager. Pretend you are Mr. Mikel Arteta, and you have a chance. And assuming all of these players are, either available to keep for the long term or to get rid of. We're going to look at, should they stay or should they go? And let's start off with Matt Ryan. Came in from Brighton on loan as a backup goalkeeper to replace Alex Runerson, who in those games in the Carabao just was shocking, beyond shocking. And I couldn't tell if he was Icelandic or if his passport needed to be checked to see if he was German, because maybe he was, a famous German goalkeeper who cost a certain club in the Champions League final. That was shocking. But Matt Ryan's come in and he's done a decent job. And let's say Brighton gave an option to sign for around, I don't know, let's say £5 to £7 million. Would you say, I'll take up the permanent deal, or would you say no, go back to Brighton?
Honestly, I think that he should be a player that can stay at the club for a while and be a backup goalkeeper. Obviously, like last year we had Emi Martinez, who came when Leno got injured, and he ended up being like our only good player from the restart up until the beginning of this season. And then he went to Aston Villa, and he's been again one of their best players, one of the best keepers in the Prem. So I think we kind of made a mistake letting him go. I think that he could have really been a good asset to us this year. So I think that we should not make that mistake again. I think we should keep Matt Ryan.
All right. Next, we have Callum Chambers, and gosh can only tell me how long he's been at this football club. He's been Mr. Versatile. He's been put at center back. He's been put at right back. He was very good at central defensive midfield when he was on loan at, I think, Fulham and Middlesbrough, a while ago. And he's sort of, as of right now, he's making that right back position his own. Hector Bellerin not being Mikel Arteta's favored player. He's kind of fallen out with one of his favorites because we all know how amazing Hector Bellerin is at two things: crossing a ball and taking throw-ins. And Cedric, he's been kind of hit and miss. Arteta sometimes plays him, sometimes he doesn't. So what are you saying about Callum Chambers? Would you say stay or would you get money for him and sell?
I think that's a hard one because when he does play, he tends to be a good asset to the team. He's able to assist a lot. He's even able to get a couple goals when the team needs him. But also he's seems to kind of be a bit washed up as a player. He's obviously, yeah, he's been here for a super long time. He's one of the longest serving players on the team. But I don't know if he's that valuable to the team right now. And I don't know if he's exactly what we need. But with that being said, I do think we need some more experience on the team. I think we have a lot of player. Obviously, like the team has been completely rebuilt over the past like 6 or 7 years. There are almost no players that remain from like 2014. So I think I would say about Callum Chambers, I think I would say stay because I think we do need that experience. We need players that have been at the club for a while. And I think that he could be valuable at the fullback positions, especially where we have had a like very inconsistent starting spots. So I would say, yeah, I would say Callum Chambers stays.
Okay. Next we have David Luiz. Last minute signing from Unai Emery back in the summer 2019. They needed a center back after Lauren Koscielny departed the club. Came in for £8 million. So that's more or less pennies for a club like Arsenal. He's come in and he's been again hit or miss throughout his Arsenal career so far. His contract expiring, I think, at the end of this season or next season. Would you say stay or would you just say thanks for everything? See you later.
I think that David Luiz is a player that he's had his good moments. He's been able to stop an attack. I think in the FA Cup final against Chelsea last August, he was pretty good. He made some very important clearances, very important tackles. But with that being said, he's just horribly inconsistent, which is not what you really are able to get by with in the Premier League. He's cost us a lot of goals. He's gotten like a stupid number of red cards and conceded like a Premier League high number of penalties. And that's just, we don't need that. We don't want that. He's just too inconsistent. Obviously, he was good back in the day, back with PSG and Chelsea, but he's just he's a loose cannon. So I think that he has to go. He's not fitting into the team.
Okay. Next we have Eddie Nketiah. Still very young. But I feel like he's been young for literally like forever. He's still at a young age. Arteta seemed to. He was the one who brought Nketiah back into the team when he was sent out on loan. Arteta immediately recalled him and he was playing him a lot more. But it hasn't been all that convincing. And you still have guys like Alexander Lacazette, the captain Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Gabriel Martinelli can play through the middle. One of Arteta's favorites, being sarcastic. And you also have Balogun, who's been doing incredible things in the under 23s. A lot of Arsenal friends of mine rate him very highly. And side question, what do you think of Florian Balogun?
I think Balogun could be very, very good in years to come. I think he really performed well in the group stages of the Europa League. He came on a couple times as a sub, got a goal in one of the games. I think he could be very good in years to come, but I guess I think he's 18, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
I'm not quite sure, but
yeah, he's 18.
very young and he can definitely do some damage in the coming years. But
Yeah.
As far as Nketiah goes, I don't know if he is man that we need to be looking for to in years to come to score goals. I think he hasn't really progressed that much as a player over the recent years. He's been in the first team for at least a few years now. So I think that Nketiah is a player that could possibly either go out on another loan spell or he could be sold. I think we have plenty of up and coming talent at the striker position like Bolgan and Martinelli. And I think that they've shown that they've progressed more and are able to be a bit more dynamic than Nketiah. With that being said, Nketiah is a good striker. He can score. He has saved the team a couple of times, but I think he's a player that I could see go.
Okay. Cedric, brought in by Arteta, to bring cover and competition at right back. He's been in the team, out of the team, as I said before. Would you keep him, or would you say, on your bike, see you later?
I think Suarez is a player that he can be good. I think that he's able to play the fullback position a bit more consistently than some of the other players that have tried to go into those positions. With that being said, he doesn't have that much competition. The Arsenal fullbacks have not really proven themselves in recent years. We've kind of just had lots of different players going into that, like Kolasinac ended up being pretty much just complete bust. He was pretty useless for a few years, and we finally got rid of him a few months ago.
He could have been Ozil's bodyguard, though.
Yeah, that was probably his best moment as an Arsenal player. But I think I want Suarez to stay. I think that he could be a very useful player. He's a good fullback, I would say.
All right. Next, you have Dani Ceballos. And in recent weeks, he's been, I'll say, not at his very best form. If we're being quite honest. Looking at the back of last season after the restart, he looked like a player that Arsenal fans were desperate to have stay for, the long term. And if I'm an Arsenal fan, I would be on that train as well, because Arteta in the beginning brought a lot of good performances out of Dani Ceballos. He was playing well, but this season it hasn't worked, and I think especially in these Europa League playoff games, and I will actually reference something from what Mr. DT said. Many times he is almost thrown away a game in the Europa League knockout rounds against Benfica, against Olympiacos, and almost tried doing so against Villarreal. Assuming Real Madrid would said, if you want, you can have him for £20 million. Would you take it, or would you say, no, see you later?
I would say Dani Ceballos is a player that I can definitely see staying at the club, and I think I would want him to stay. I think we shouldn't forget the way he was kind of able to bring up the team when he first came in here into the club, and over the restart as well. He was playing very well. I think he kind of has to get his confidence back, though. Obviously, like recent weeks, he's been very bad. He got a red card against Villarreal. He gave away a couple of cheap goals. But I think he is one of the more creative players, which is kind of everything that Arsenal needs right now. So I think that Dani Ceballos should stay. I would say stay for Dani Ceballos.
Mm-hmm. And reports are suggesting that he wants to go back to Real Madrid. But if I think pretty sure Real Madrid would be open to his sale. But unlike Ceballos, one who they are apparently not open for his sale is Martin Odegaard. This man has been a revelation since coming into Arsenal. He's given them, a completely different look. Coming in, being a short-term replacement for Mesut Ozil. arriving on loan. And he's been raving hype and reviews from Arsenal fans. From what I've heard, he was very good up until that unfortunate injury. And let's say Real Madrid said you can have him, but it's going to cost you from, I don't know, a range from 50 to 60 million pounds. Would you say, yeah, worth the money, or would you say, nah, thanks, we'll look for somebody else?
I would definitely want to keep Martin Odegaard. I think he is. I think like obviously ever since Ozil got dropped from the squad, the team completely just fell into a slump where we lost creativity. We never had anything going forward. We were a very very boring team. I think Odegaard is a player that can definitely just kind of reconstruct the midfield. He's going to be the one that's able to connect the passes and do something that's able to elevate the team and actually create something that Arsenal can profit off of. And I think that's kind of what the strikers in the team need, and what Arteta really needs is a creative player. So I would definitely say Martin Odegaard, he should stay.
Yeah, and I think any Arsenal fan would want that guy to stay. But unfortunately, I don't think Real Madrid are in any or have any interest in letting him go. But reports say that Martin Odegaard is actually very happy in Arsenal and that he actually wants to stay. And that's going to be up to his parenthood club. Next, we have Alexander Lacazette. And the reason why I bring him into this is because, as a lot of people know, he's got 1 year remaining on his contract. He seems to be, he's when on form, he's red hot on form, but he seems a bit inconsistent, especially this season and last season. He definitely is second choice to, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who at one point I thought, was Travis Scott, running around on the pitch. But um, Arteta has him in and out of the team. At one point, he even preferred Nketiah to Lacazette. Would you sign this guy to a new contract, or would you sell him in the summer? Because surely you wouldn't want to lose this guy on a free.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say Lacazette, he is a player that he can be there when you really need him. He's scored a lot of very, very important goals for the club ever since he signed from Lyon. So I think that he's a player that he can score goals. He knows how to score goals. He knows how to be clinical. On the other hand, he has also missed a lot of chances,
Mhm.
especially the past couple seasons. So I would say for Lacazette, um, I would say I want him staying. I think that he would be, if he was able, if Arteta is somehow able to incorporate both him and Aubameyang into the team in a way that actually works. Unlike in recent years, we've tried to play Aubameyang more on the wing, and it's kind of not been to his advantage. I think that it could be a very deadly partnership between him and Aubameyang. So I would say stay for Alexander Lacazette.
Would you sign him to a new contract? Because if he stays, he'll be on the last 12 months of his contract.
Yeah, I would say sign a contract.
Okay. Next, we have Mohamed El Neni. I remember in the performance against Manchester United, and one of my biggest nightmares actually came true. And as Mohamed El Neni bullied McFred in midfield, and Thomas Partey was Thomas Partey, and that was just horrible for me to watch. But ever since that performance against Manchester United, he's definitely dropped off. He's had some good games, especially in the Europa League and whatnot. But he hasn't looked too much like his normal self, although he's looked a lot better under Mikel Arteta. He's been used sparingly throughout the season. He's been thrown in at times and then not. Would you keep him, sign him to a new contract because I think he has a year or two left on his deal, or would you say thanks, see you later?
So El Neni, he's a player. Obviously, he's been very, very much in and out of the squad over the past few years. He used to be in the team a lot, and then there was a long span where he kind of just got dropped for a very long time. I think a lot of people just completely forgot about him and forgot that he even really existed. So, and then he kind of came back under Arteta, put on a couple of good performances, and then kind of went back under the radar. But I think El Neni he is a player that is able to produce things. He can score. He has a very good shot. He can score some
Oh,
good goals.
definitely.
But I think he's also not exactly what Arsenal needs right now. I don't think that he's a player that we can really just stick in our midfield and have and like be able to build a complete squad around. So I would say El Neni's a player that I wouldn't mind see going. I think that it would be better for his career. It would be better for Arsenal if he left the club. So I'd say Mohamed El Neni goes.
Okay. Next, Granit Xhaka. Another central defensive midfielder. Has again been an up and down season. What are you saying about Xhaka?
Xhaka, he's an interesting case. He's obviously he had that big falling out with the Arsenal fans a while back after he got a red card. He got booed, and I think that since that he's bounced back in a very good way. He's been a solid player in the midfield. He scored that really good free kick against Chelsea earlier in the season. So I think that Granit Xhaka is a player that could definitely fit into the team for years to come, and I think that he's a player that I would want to see staying.
Okay. And before we get on to the manager, I just want to throw a random scenario at you. Let's say one of the one of the big clubs, non England but outside of Europe, whether it's a Real Madrid, a Barcelona, PSG, Bayern Munich, uh, Juventus, etc., knock on Arsenal's door and say, "Hey, we like that Bukayo Saka kid of yours. Here's £100 million. Would you want to sell?"
No, I think he's become arguably our best player since the restart. He's scored
Mm.
goals, he's gotten assists, he played very well today, and he's a wonder kid. He's one of the best young players in the Premier League.
Oh, by a million
So
miles.
I would
I've
say
praised this guy
I
beyond
would
belief.
yeah I wouldn't take 100 million for him. I would say I want him to stay kind of by any means necessary. I want Bukayo Saka to stay.
You know, telling the other clubs, hands off, not for sale.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And lastly, we have the manager, Mikel Arteta. Um, and I know for and again, like the Manchester United performance, all I was hearing was Mikel Arteta's masterclass. But I mean, when you come up against Ollie, it doesn't take a whole lot to tactically masterclass. It really doesn't, because Ollie ball is just simple. Throw the Welsh Sonic the Hedgehog Dan James in, and you hit the other team on the break. And I mean, we played right into your strengths there. But Mikel Arteta, um, Arteta in or Arteta out? And if out, who would you like to see replace him?
So this is kind of a question that could go either way because I don't know how much of this whole downfall of Arsenal. I don't know how much has really been purely up to the manager because obviously we've been boring. We've had questionable starting lineups, but you can also say a lot about the players, about the leaders on the team, and how they've kind of just been unable to rally the team and kind of just win a big game. So I think that if Mikel Arteta is able to kind of adapt his playing style and be able to incorporate his best players, create the best starting 11, and get more creativity up top. Obviously, goal scoring has been our bane this year. We have not been scoring goals. We haven't been creating chances. We haven't been finishing. So I think that if Mikel Arteta is able to kind of redesign our attack and make it so we get out of this attacking slump, then he definitely could be a very good manager and could possibly get us back into the top four. But obviously, also he hasn't done that yet. He hasn't shown that he's been able to adapt. He hasn't shown that he really has a desire to be back to one of the big Premier League giants. But I think that we've shown that it's not always the manager's fault. Because we've had four basically managers in
Oh
the
yeah. I mean,
Wenger,
yeah.
Emery, and then we had Ljungberg as the interim manager, and then we got Arteta.
Mhm.
So I would say I don't think Mikel Arteta should go yet. I think that I'm Mikel Arteta in. I think that we should
But for now,
more wait it out and see
okay.
if he's able
All
to
right.
bounce
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Yeah. And I could also see that perspective. Because as much as Arteta's been, from a neutral perspective, I mean, you only look at the first leg of, Villarreal, and he has Gabriel Martinelli, Aubameyang is coming back from malaria, but you still have Gabriel Martinelli, who can play down the middle, and he goes into the biggest game of the season for Arsenal, and he goes with a false nine, even though the midfielders, have not been scoring that many goals, and on top of that, none of them have even scored more than 2 goals over the past 2 seasons. So I didn't really understand that. But the problem with Arsenal for me lies so much deeper than the manager. This ownership, the Cronkies, Josh and Stan Kroenke. I remember Josh Kroenke saying in that summer 2019, be excited. Um, um, a lot of Arsenal fans don't seem excited with the Cronkies, and I'm guessing, are you Kroenke in or Kroenke out?
I don't think really any fans are Kroenke in. They just Stan Kroenke and his company. They own a ton of
Oh
American
yeah,
teams. They only own one in England, and it's Arsenal.
they're on
So
the
I think,
Rams, and
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So I think that what the fans want is a owner that's able to actually connect with the fans,
mhm,
that actually cares a lot about
yeah,
the club and cares a lot about
hmm
the game. So I think that new ownership is desperately needed, and I think that these protests that have been happening among really all the Premier League fans are going to force these rich owners to kind of I hope at least that it'll force them to take a step back and
yeah.
possibly think about how best to please these fans.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the Cronkies for me are a mirror of the Glazers. And if and for the people that have seen my rants in the past, and especially what I had to say about the European Super League and all of that, people very well know what my thoughts are on owners like the Glazers and the Cronkies and et cetera, et cetera. All right, into our my next question for you. There are definitely a lot of things that Arsenal need in the transfer window. I think that's an understatement. Um, you're Mikel Arteta, and let's say you can get 3 positions. You can reinforce that 3 positions. Where should yourself or Arteta and Arsenal, what should they prioritize in strengthening this summer?
So I think that first of all, I think we need to make sure we have a consistent midfield and are able to have a set of a few players that can start every week, that can be that we have so that we have some midfielders that are able to defend, some midfielders that are able to be box to box, I think we really need a good number 10. So I think we should invest in a creative midfielder that's able to, create chances, something that we haven't really been able to do over the past few years since at least since Ozil got dropped. So I'd say that's definitely one. I think also we need to reinforce our fullback position.
Yeah.
Even though it's one of the kind of one of the less seen as one of the less important members of the squad. I think that we should. I think if we're able to find a good fullback, kind of like Liverpool were able to do with Trent, I think that we could definitely benefit a lot from having a nice creative fullback.
Or modern day fullback, one
Yeah,
that can
yeah,
um goes up and down. And a left back, other than Kieran Tierney, if you lose him, you don't have a left back. You kind of have to throw Saka back there. So maybe you just bring in like a depth signing or something like that.
yeah, definitely. Or we could focus on replacing Hector Bellerin. I think he's definitely looking to leave. He's been dropped a lot. He's been very inconsistent. Even though I think he is the longest serving member of the team right now. But I think that we could definitely use a very good fullback. And when we brought in Kieran Tierney, he did a lot of good stuff. Uh, he was able to bring a lot of passion, bring a lot of fight and spirit to Arsenal, which is something we definitely lacked. So I think that a fullback could definitely improve the squad.
Yeah. And other than positioning for the positions that you named, creative midfielders, defensive box to box midfielders, you said, wing backs or outside backs, left back, right back. Um, if there were specific names, can being completely realistic, what names would you throw out that you would like to see Arsenal sign? And also, would you also reinforce the center back position as well?
I think that I guess I'll start with the center back. I think that we have I think we have the center backs that we need. We just need to be able to find a center back pairing that's able to be consistent, start every week. So I think it could start with Saliba being called back from loan. I think that he was good while he played a couple of games at Arsenal, and he's been very good in France. So I think that we should definitely start by taking him back and trying to build our defense around him and possibly Gabriel. I think he's my favorite fullback that we've had so far.
Your favorite center back?
Yeah, or center back, I mean. And I think in terms of like a dream signing, I think that I would want. I think obviously Foden's a bit more of a winger, but I think that that's exactly what the team needs. Is
You'll never get Phil Foden.
we're not getting Phil Foden, but I think a player like Foden.
Yeah, someone with that flair, someone
Yeah,
with the technical ability.
yeah, can
Um,
finish,
but
can assist.
but are you sure you think you need a winger though? Because I mean,
Uh,
Arsenal's
I think I kind of got distracted by Foden, but yeah, I think if we were able to find more of a, I guess yes, a Mesut Ozil type player that can assist.
Odegaard, maybe.
Yeah, I think we kind of have that in Odegaard, but I think he still maybe needs to progress a tiny bit more. But I think if we're able to find a very, very good Mesut Ozil replacement, then I think that could really help to rebuild the team and bring us back into the top four, which is obviously our goal. It used to be kind of a given for like 20 years, but not anymore.
Yeah. Say Real Madrid want to sell Odegaard. Would you would you think, yeah, Odegaard's the Ozil replacement, or are you thinking about somebody else?
I think that Odegaard could definitely be an Ozil replacement, but I do think he has to prove himself a bit more. He's only had half a season, which has been kind of torn apart by injuries. So I think I want to see Odegaard prove himself a bit more, but I think if he could, then he definitely could be a Ozil replacement. But also, there's the chance that we ruin him like we have for a lot of players. So that is not what I want to see happening. I want to see us able to improve Odegaard and let him prove himself.
All right. Fair enough. In terms, last question on this thing here. In terms of the fullbacks, take right back. Who would your ideal replacement for Hector Bellerin be? And I mean, there's some very good right backs out there. I mean, there's Max Aarons of Norwich. You have Hakimi of Inter, although they're not interested in selling, a good price could get him because of the financial trouble they're in. You have Tarek Lamptey of Brighton, who's been unreal this season. Who would your ideal Hector Bellerin replacement be?
I think if it was just like, if we weren't talking about who's for sale, who costs what, I think we'd want kind of a Kyle Walker type right back. Somebody who's able to be somebody who's strong, somebody who's fast, somebody who's consistent. And I think Kyle Walker, obviously for this season for Manchester City, he's been pretty vital for them in their defense. I think that's kind of the player we need, a strong, fast, consistent
player type.
Right back. Yeah, definitely. I think I want to see a Kyle Walker type right back.
Okay.
But I think obviously those players that you named from Brighton could definitely, those could be players that we want to see.
Yeah. Getting into my final two questions. Looking at the season, and if we're going to be brutally honest, for Arsenal, it's been nothing short of an abysmal season, underperforming in the league. I'm not saying this because I love this club with all my life, but they've just been abysmal by their standards. They're looking to finish 10th or 9th or 10th in the league. It's definitely not Arsenal standards at all. But there have been some bright sparks. Who would your top three players of the season would be, and your top three disappointments of the season? Disappointments in terms of players that you're hoping were going to be good this year, but just flopped.
So I think first player that you kind of have to include in our top three players this season would be Bukayo Saka. Obviously, he's won Player of the Month for Arsenal a few times already.
Would he be your player of the season?
I would think he would definitely be up there, and I would, if I had to pick a player of the season, I think it would be Bukayo Saka. He's been so important for the team. He's come in and he's developed and he's improved. And not a lot of players have been able to do that. So I think I would give Bukayo Saka a definite spot in that list. Next, I think I would say Gabriel. Obviously, he hasn't been in the team recently, but I think this fall he was very important. He scored a few goals for us. He's one of our top scorers as a center back, which said a lot about how our forwards were playing. So I think that he is up there too. He's been very important for us. He's solid in defense. And the third player I would give that to, I think that's a harder one. There've been players like Smith Rowe who've been very good.
Yeah, he's been great.
Tierney was great, but I think I would have to give it to. It's a tough one. I think I would have to give it to. Honestly, I might give it to Bernd Leno.
Leno.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
He's saved us quite a few times. He has shown that can be one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League. Obviously, he's had his slip-ups, but I think judging by the state of Arsenal's, the state of the players that have been playing in front of Leno, I think that he's done a very good job in kind of keeping the team from getting relegated, really. So I think that Leno would have to be a top three player.
Okay.
It says a lot about the team that the goalkeeper is getting in there, but.
And your top three disappointments.
So top three disappointments, I would say number one, obviously we kind of have to go with Aubameyang. He had a very, very bad start to the season. He went quite a few games without scoring. He was missing chances. He was just disappearing. And after what he did last season, what he did his first full season in the club, he got Golden Boot. And then this season, he's kind of just been disappearing. He hasn't been the player that is able to score every game or every other game and save the team, which I think has been very surprising because obviously he scored 2 goals in the FA Cup final. So I think that he's definitely one of the top disappointments this season. But I think he does have the capacity to bounce back and regain his spot as one of the best strikers in the Premier League. Next disappointment, I think I'll give to Thomas Partey.
Partey.
Yeah, he's come in. He was good a few games. He obviously performed very well against Manchester United, but he wasn't quite the player that we thought he would be. We thought he'd be the player that we're kind of able to build our midfield around. He'd be super consistent, but all he's kind of really been consistent about is skying every one of his long shots.
Well, I'm gonna have to cut you off here. I mean, I personally disagree. I mean, he's been ravaged by injuries all season.
That's true.
And Partey isn't a guy that you want on the edge of the box. He's more or less a defensive midfielder. He's the one who's gonna distribute the ball, clean. He does more of the ugly stuff. That's kind of his game. And you'd still throw him into that top three.
You have some good points. I think I guess I expected more. I think if we're talking about worst players, I don't think he'd be the worst player. We'd have to give that to like David Luiz, but I think I've been a bit disappointed.
Yeah.
I think I could see that, but I think he's definitely a player he's able to play very well. He's a good
Mhm.
player, but I think it's partly a bit of the management. He hasn't really, I don't think we've been playing to his strengths, the team around him. But I guess that's actually a good point. I don't know if I really want to include him there anymore, but I think I'll come back to that. But
Maybe a guy by the name of Willian,
yeah,
200 grand a week.
that's what I was about to say. And he was just unnecessary. We really did not need wingers. Uh, we didn't need a washed up Chelsea player. Obviously, he
um,
scored a free kick today, but besides that, he's just been disappointing. He hasn't been scoring. He hasn't been creating. He hasn't been assisting. He really just has not contributed much to the attack at all.
no, he
And
hasn't. He definitely hasn't.
yeah,
And I mean, when they first signed Willian, I definitely could understand the signing. You have young players like Martinelli and Saka, and they can't play. And it's clear with Saka as well. He's just getting burnt out at this point. And that they need someone to learn from. And Willian on a free, all the Premier League experience he's got. I first looked at the signing and I thought, you know what, Willian's not going to be he's not going to be electrifying, but I think he's a good enough player that could definitely help, teach some of these younger players and be a role model for some of these younger players. But it just hasn't worked.
yeah, I agree. I think that it was just an unnecessary signing. I don't think we should have wasted his time. Just like it was just a David Luiz type signing. Yes, we saw him for sale and thought, why not? But he just hasn't contributed. And I think that it was a very unnecessary signing.
All
That's my
right. So who would your last most disappointing player be? I mean, there's definitely, I mean, in terms of underperforming players, I mean, Hector Bellerin,
yeah.
he's definitely one.
Rob Holding you could put up there. He's been at the club for a long time, but I don't think he's been able to
Who would
show
you say? Would you
here.
say Bellerin, Holding?
I think I would say I'd put Holding in there over Bellerin. I think the Holding's done a bit worse for the team. He's been in the team for he's been like a starting center back for a lot of our most disappointing losses. So I think that he is definitely can be classified as a very disappointing player.
All right. Well, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on. Any closing thoughts about just Arsenal overall?
I'm just hoping that we're able to get back. I'm hoping that we kind of play for the long term, that we're able to, in a few more seasons, hopefully able to see ourselves getting into that top four and hopefully eventually getting back to becoming title contenders. But it's been a long season. It's been very, very disappointing. And I think there's a lot that needs to be done. And it's not just the manager, it's the whole system really that needs to be completely looked at and changed. And I think that it's going to take a lot to take us back to being a big Premier League team, because I don't think we're a big Premier League team anymore. But I think it's possible, and I'm really hoping that we're able to.
Yeah. Hopefully, Arsenal can get back to, where they once were, but right now they're a million miles away from it. Well, anyways, and thank you for your time, or thank you for watching this installment of Premier League Prime Time. You've if you've absolutely loved hearing what Mike had to say, smash like on the video, subscribe, check out our other platforms in the link in the description below. And wherever you are watching this in the world, have a great day. And as Unai Emery would say, good evening.